I met children that had seen their houses being destroyed. I met children that had seen one of their parents being killed, or a brother or a sister, that have seen bodies around after a bombardment. The number of children traumatized by violence is enormous. And at the same time, when one looks at the living conditions of the refugees outside the country, we need to recognize that there are huge gaps in the capacity to provide them with adequate protection and assistance. For instance, only 1/3 of the children is having school. We have a lot of child labor to help the families. In some more desperate situations, I heard stories of girls that have been driven into prostitution by their own families, and all these create the risk of a lost generation if there is not a massive support to programs to bring children into school, to provide psychosocial support, and to make sure that they are protected from these horrible violations of human rights they are suffering now.
What is the UN able to do, though, for those orphans, the thousands of orphans? Are there host families that can look after these children, or are they left to fend for themselves?
The large majority find an host family. I just met a colleague of mine that was this morning with what she thought was a mother and 6 children. And she asked the mother, are these your children? I said, no. Their parents were killed and I adopted them. And this is happening with the large majority of the orphans. There is an enormous generosity in the Syrian people. But of course, there are situations in which it's difficult to find a foster family, and then we really have lack of institutions that are able to provide these orphans with an adequate integration in society, and we are struggling to find these kind of institutions, namely in the countries of the region.